is Midnight Alchemy with your alchemists, Jason Allen and Holly Jordan.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever and whenever you are. This is Midnight Alchemy, and I am only one half of the Midnight Alchemists. She is my yin to my yang. Hello, Holly. How you doing?
Awesome, Jason. Awesome. Very glad to be here again.
Yeah, my camera's decided it wants to be haunted today.
Ooh.
I'm gonna put this on William. He sent over some spirits on me, and it's but no, I'm really excited tonight because we have, well, to me, an old friend on the show. Interviewed him at least a few times. He is a great medium and a good friend. And his name is William Becker. Hello, great medium and a good friend. And his name is William Becker. Hello, William.
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm blushing.
Well, this will go on YouTube, so people will be able to see you blush.
Oh, good.
Blush away.
Mm-hmm.
Blush away.
Red's a good color on me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so how's everything going with you, William?
Pretty well. Yeah. Life is good, and I'm glad the ghosts I sent over made it okay for your camera.
Excellent.
Nice.
Do we have a name to these entities here?
Oh, I don't know who it was. The ones that come around and visit me or visit my house all the time, most of them just hang out and do whatever they're going to do and don't say much. The ones that aren't as noticeable are the ones that talk to me more. So,
yeah,
but,
excellent. So William, for those who don't know who you are, will you give just a brief intro and tell us about yourself?
Yeah. I have been involved in, well, let me back up a little bit. I saw my first ghost when I was 8 or 9. It was another little boy, and I thought he was a real kid, and a group of us were hanging out in this other kid's neighborhood, not mine. And I said, "Who's that? Can he play with us?" And the friend of mine, who was the old, kind of the head of the group of us, said, "Oh, that's so and so. He's dead." So it was like, "Oh, okay." And I mean, it's a beautiful spring day. School's out, but teachers were still, I don't know. Anyway, and so it was like no big deal. And my friends even said how he died and the whole bit. And so that was, I've believed that these exist for a very long time. And then with the psychic work, I really started working with that in my late teens. And I grew up in an area and a time where being a little different isn't always the best thing. And very historic town, old town. A lot of good things about it, but just a lot of very different focus. My family, it was always a question of which university, not if university. And that was, I was probably in junior high before anybody else in my class came from that kind of a background. And so, things like that. And it's not that one's better than the other. It's just that it's a different focus.
Sure.
So I learned how to be invisible real early in life and at home. And so I didn't talk about these things. I mean, it just no need to. And then started late high school, early college, found other people with similar interests with the mediumship and really started working with that for a long time now, far more years than I'm willing to always admit to.
Well, you look 27, so don't worry about it.
Oh, great. Okay, and I'll go with that one.
All right.
Thank you.
You know, you live in a town in a city that has a lot of history to it.
Yes.
Uh, and I mean, what a good place to be a medium, right?
Mhm.
Uh, what, the oldest settlement west of the Mississippi?
The oldest incorporated city west of the Mississippi. There were settlements that were older,
Yeah,
but as far as an incorporated city, we're the oldest. So we were the legal power structure
yeah,
for the Oregon country, the Oregon territory, depending on who you talk to, the state. Um, we have San Francisco's plot map because they filed their charter with us because we were the legal entity.
wow,
We were incorporated before the U.S. owned California.
yeah.
I think we was 1848 when we got it, and well, and it fits my bachelor's is history, so I get to see the history over and over again with
Yeah.
living in these places.
Yeah, I'm a history dude myself.
Yeah,
And I just get attracted to places that have that rich, uh, vibrant history to it. And I when I moved out to where I am now, it is another old settlement,
right.
and it's been fun just getting in the weeds of all this, and so I love that aspect about what you do, and because you have that historical context that you can kind of lean on, right,
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
bring context to it. I'm interested, and this was a question I was going to ask a little further down the line, but no, I'm going to do it now, and
Okay.
that is who or what who is the oldest entity ghost that you've ever encountered?
Mm, I don't know names. Um, I've encountered myself in past lives
Wow.
that go back to about 3000, 3500 BC. Oh, one of them actually probably closer to 5 or 6,000 BC. Um, but and I've encountered um, priests and temples in Egypt. I had King Tut show me how he rose out of his mummy, how his spirit
Mm,
rose out of his mummy.
yeah.
Um, so those are probably the oldest ones that I've encountered. Um, I haven't been to some of the places where you might have Neanderthal and that kind of, well, I mean, they'd been all over the place, but I haven't experienced that, I don't think.
Well, you're
Um,
you're talking to one now,
a
so
Neanderthal?
no, but no. What is the oldest ghost or spirit that you've encountered where you're living now?
Oh, where I live now in my town.
Yeah.
Let me see. One of the ones that has been talked about, I haven't seen him, but others have. Good friends of mine have seen Dr. McLaughlin,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and he was basically the father of Oregon. And some of the other ones I don't necessarily have names for. Now, we've encountered a variety of people that are
Mhm.
pioneer times. So probably from 1820s forward. Um,
Yeah.
I think the first mill in Oregon City was 1827, 1829.
That is.
Um, and so that's, and then there's, of course, Native American here from long
Sure.
before.
Right.
But I haven't had as many experiences with them. I've had communication at a couple of sites and very powerful communication and mediumship experiences with some. But as far as the more physical experience, a visual and audio things moving around. I haven't with them. But so I would say one of the oldest would probably be Dr. McLaughlin. And then there's another guy, he told me to call him Carlos, but that's not his name. He was an enforcer dude back in the day because we had steamboat docks and stuff in town.
Sure.
And he and I get along great. And he's let me see him in physical form in the middle of the afternoon twice.
Wow.
Wow.
And direct, full-on looking, full-bodied apparition. And he's there, then he's gone.
Could you describe him?
Yeah. Nice guy. I mean, for me, he's nice because he knows I don't judge, and he knows I have no desire to hurt him, and he knows I know he can't hurt me. And I mean, I'm not on his contract list, so we can be buddies. He doesn't need to break my kneecap or stab me, but and so probably about 5'8", 5'9", maybe right in there. Of not a big bulky build at all, sharply dressed. He usually has a flat topped hat with kind of things hanging around down on the side. I'm not sure if it's Spanish or if it's Italian or just what. Like I say, the name he gave me isn't the real one, but I haven't seen him for a little while. I need to go down and talk to him again. And because he's down around Main Street. And yeah, a mustache. And now as we're talking, a friend of mine got a photo of somebody who is crouching down by an old steamboat dock in town, or where the dock was. And that's where I first met Carlos, and he would follow me around from there, especially on my tours when I gave him. And I'm thinking that picture might have been him even.
Oh,
Interesting.
excellent.
I hadn't thought about that before.
Does he realize that he's passed on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's not stuck here. This is part of him. That's just,
Okay.
I haven't ever met a stuck or trapped individual. I meet personality that's left behind. I meet intellect that's left behind. I meet those who come and visit us,
Right.
or back and forth, or just choose to hang out. But they know a whole lot better what to do and how to do it than we do,
Right.
and to tell them. So I trust them to do what they need to do.
So I have to ask, the question, of course, is bubbling up. What is the prompt for him to not tell you his name, or to give you this other pseudonym for himself?
Partly to be playful,
Okay.
and partly because he wouldn't give that name out in his regular life,
Gotcha.
but mostly to tease.
Sure.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
I totally respect that.
Well, sure.
I kind of think sometimes, having a bunch of aliases might be kind of fun.
I'm gonna have to work on that, right?
Yeah, I'd probably get myself in trouble.
If that is your real name.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been really interested in your body of work for a long time. And every time we've talked and interviewed and stuff, it has been just fantastic.
I love it.
When you communicate, okay, how can you explain the different ways of the communication? I mean, is it literally telepathic? Is it even auditory sometimes?
Sometimes it's auditory, but I'm not going to be hearing the whole conversation most likely. I have it's in my here. It's right about the third eye. It's telepathic, basically.
Yeah.
And I will see it, but it's not spelled out, but I see it, and I see the people, and I see it's like hearing the conversation, only it doesn't have the hearing. It's just, it's here and it shows up. And it's very different than imagination or anything like that. Plus, then I get the visuals. A lot of times they show me
Mhm.
the story. I'll see the action happen. I've working with clients, especially often the people they want me to connect with, will show me how the part of the body that was affected that caused them to pass, or I'll feel it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But so there's a little bit of both of those pieces to it. And it's not always consistent. I mean, it comes in a lot of different ways. And sometimes they show me symbols that's when it's really gets fun, because sometimes there's symbols to give me a better impression so I understand better, so I can explain it better. But sometimes there's symbols for the client, not for me. And so you put them out there and you see what works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically it's a telepathic visual type thing.
Very cool. Hey, I want to touch on some because I am so intrigued by it. Past life regression.
Mhm.
And, for the longest time, I've just had just a huge curiosity about that because I believe that we are more than just one trip through and that's it. See you later. That we have
Right,
to experience things and grow in certain ways
right.
that just can't be captured in one go or
Yeah.
one stop. So talk to me a little bit about that, about past life regression, what it is for people who don't really know,
Mhm.
and maybe some of the experiences that you've had.
Yeah. Now I want to first start with the difference between regression and readings.
Yeah.
Am not a hypnotist. I do not do past life regressions
Okay.
or take people on those. I read their past lives.
Ah, okay.
And so it's a psychic reading, it's a mediumship reading where their past life comes through from them. I often see what's going on kind of beside them and a little behind them.
Yeah.
And I'll see the lives, usually the lives that are involved with the questions they have at the time, things that are going on in life at this point. Not necessarily bad things, often good things. Sometimes has to do with people they're with, because so often you have people that have multiple lives together, and they might be parent and child this time, and last time they might have been romantic partners, and the time before that they might have been siblings. And the time before that, one might have been the abusive boss.
Mm,
There's
yeah.
just so many different ways in interactions with them. And, or somebody will say, well, I really have a fear of water. Well, let's see. You fell out of the boat when you were a Viking and drowned. This ship went down with you on it at this time period. Yeah, I kind of understand why you're afraid of water.
Yeah.
And then it's a point where people can start working and understanding. Once you understand where something's coming from, you can modify its hold over you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I have a huge, hugely fear of water and also of heights, being up high. Imagine this: when I was in the army, you have to rappel down stuff, and yeah, that wasn't my most favorite part of it. But
Well, that's because you fell out of an airplane.
well, that would that would do it. Yeah,
And
man.
it looks like there may have been a parachute pack. I see something on your back, but it didn't work. Um, or you were injured too far to make it work or something. I don't know. I just see a plane. It looks like it's kind of the green military colors. It's a prop plane. Looks like a World War II vintage, like a B-15 or 17, whatever,
Yeah,
a bomber type thing.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Huh.
you're flying out there, but you don't have the extra wings on for a soft landing.
Excellent. Okay, that brings like a million more questions, which we'll do
Okay.
at another time. But
Okay.
when you were giving a past life reading, uh, how far back, the farthest back you've been able to see?
Oh, I've seen back as far as the Neolithic with people. In some cases, most people I haven't experienced lives that far back.
Sure.
I have a couple friends that I've had lives that far back with. But as far as working with people on their past lives,
Yeah.
in Middle Ages, Roman Viking is often,
Yeah.
but every once in a while you get somebody where the lives that are coming through will be actually prehistoric.
Okay.
Um,
Yes. Sometime in either an episode or just in real life, I'm gonna have to get a past life reading from you because
Good.
I am just so interested in that. I find that endlessly fascinating, and
Hmm.
as a history dude, it's always it piques my interest. Uh,
Exactly. We'll set it up
have you
and
have
meet.
you ever seen in the future, like lives in the future?
Not people's lives so much. I
Mhm.
have glimpses of the future, maybe sometimes. And even if I was, mostly I don't do future readings. I don't work on doing future readings. I don't develop that
Right.
because any medium who says they're always right, we aren't. We make mistakes. The other side is right, but we don't always get it right.
Mm,
They don't always know. Plus, things change.
yeah.
What's true right now is only in this tiny, tiny millisecond of time.
Yeah.
And then other things work on it and it can change. So I don't want somebody to make a life changing decision
Mhm.
and have it be wrong based on information that changes or isn't correct. Now, I will talk about okay, your great grandmother really does want you to go back to school and work on your writing,
Mhm.
or, these are things that you might consider for things like that. That it's not giving a future forecast,
Sure.
but it's saying these are some things that I'm being shown can help enhance your life and your future.
Okay.
Be it just for satisfaction or money or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome. Have you ever, like, when you've done past life readings, have you ever had somebody who was in a past life famous, like historical, empirical dude?
no.
No, just everyday people.
Yeah, no, they may have been some kind of a chief or they may have been important in the community type thing,
Sure.
but somebody I can I haven't come into the reincarnation of Cleopatra or George Washington or anybody like that yet.
Yeah, because I've heard about some, and I'm not going to name names because
Mm-mm.
mostly because they're not in my brain at this moment. But
Right.
uh, uh, some I've heard some people that no matter they get readings and oh you were this famous person or oh you were this you were that, and to me I was like well that's got to be weird because out of all the people who've lived on the earth at some point. I mean, not everybody can be Napoleon, right?
I know.
And so, I mean, that makes total sense that 99.99999% of the people would be just your average Joe or average Jill, you know?
Right. Hmm.
Yeah. So that is refreshing to see.
Very good. Yeah.
Well,
And we could, it's possible that we can incarnate into two different people at the same time.
Yeah.
That's the theory, but we would be a fairly weak presence in each body. And I doubt that would be anybody particularly famous.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you said parts of like reincarnation at the same time. Are they like different pieces of the soul?
Mhm.
Or okay.
Right. Because the theory is, and it makes sense to me, is that part of our choice when we're incarnated is not only the life we're being born into
Yeah.
for the lessons and everything we would need to learn from that life or from this incarnation cycle, but also how much of our being.
Yeah.
We don't send all of our being down. There's always at least an anchor piece of us
Mm,
there, wherever there is exactly. And we can choose how much we want to send down. And it's possible that you could say, okay, I want to be there and there.
yeah.
It's very rare that it happens. Our guides on the other side don't usually encourage it.
Hmm.
They usually discourage it. But we do have that free will to do that if that's what we think we need to do.
Okay. Uh,
And oh, go ahead.
oh no, yeah, please continue. I got my next question on deck, right?
I think I was about done. I don't remember.
Okay. Another thing, because I just am interested so much on different aspects of the paranormal. I've always been intrigued by spirit guides. Okay.
Mhm.
Does everyone have one?
Some people say that. I don't know that that's true. Um, I wasn't aware of some of mine until other people kept seeing people around me.
Yeah.
Um, and I have a group of three I call the wise ones or the ancient ones that are ancient beings that are kind of my connection. But I'm not even sure that they're spirit guides more than wisdom
Yeah.
guides. I've been part of them. And I don't know how to talk about that part very easily because it's
Yeah.
when I feel and know, but it's hard to articulate.
Sure.
I
Um,
appreciate you saying it that way, honestly, William, because this is a subject near and dear to my heart. Because a lot
Okay.
of times when I do readings for people, they want to either be told something about, Aunt Martha is your spirit guide or whatever. They're looking for
Mhm.
specific connections, and sometimes it's not a linear connection in their current life. So that's a little disturbing for some people, or exciting depending on their attitude.
Right.
And in my own experience, I can honestly say I don't remember in my first 20 plus years of psychic experiences or paranormal awakening, I guess I could
Mhm.
say, that it even occurred to me that someone might be specifically assigned to me to help me with anything. And
Right.
so when I have felt a specific spirit guide, sometimes there's one, sometimes there's three.
Right.
I do feel strongly that, for my own experience, that there are guides that travel between family members at times.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and I do feel like there's this one client of mine in another state that I read for, and we have adjacent guides that seem to know each other very well. And what I see when I read for her is the two of them sitting at a campfire hanging out while she and I talk. And
Oh,
Cool.
so it's like they're old friends and they get
Uh-huh.
together and kind of catch up
Mhm.
while we're talking. And so it's just beautiful. I mean, it feels like this very warm circle of connected souls. And I know from several readings that I've done with people that have someone that's passed, when someone is seeking confirmation from a loved one that has passed, I usually do a couple things, but one of them is to, please think of a specific question you want to get answered. And
Right.
most of the time it's, are they okay? And
Right.
what's been a delight for me is to share these images that I get in what I call mini movies.
Right.
And it is actually seeing family members at tables talking and eating and being social. And just this wonderful charged social connection, that it's not just, they peek at you once in a while. It's they're
Right.
having a life that's continuing. It's like they were fragmented with us, like you were saying, and then they continue the rest of their soul destination in this other location or this other dimension, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Probably, yes.
Yeah. And so it's really amazing to try and quantify it in human terms, because it's not easy to do that.
No.
For myself speaking, I would have to say I do believe that everyone has spirit guides, only because that's what I've encountered most of the time. That's been my experience. Do I see one every single time I do a reading? No, I do not. I do see connections to things, and I have seen a lot of influence. Sometimes it's a spirit animal. Sometimes it's something that's identified to the person that impacts them. It could be a pen, it could be an article of clothing, but whatever it is, it touches their soul in some way to magnify their experience in the moment, to help them come to conclusions or discoveries. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that
Holly,
makes sense.
you just mentioned something briefly that got my attention there.
Okay.
It's spirit animals. Now I know in a lot of Native American tradition, they have always talked about as far as like spirit guides, also the spirit, spirit animal stuff.
Yeah.
How prevalent is that, and explain why someone may have a spirit animal. And I'm throwing that out to the gallery for William.
Of course. William, you are our guest. I will give you the floor if you would like, and share what you have experienced in that arena.
Okay. And then I look forward to hearing what you have experienced.
Okay. Oh, fair enough.
Spirit guides can be anything. And including animals. And they can actually, I think, take different forms sometimes too. What's the name of the book? Tim Roby. He's a friend of mine in England. He's an archaeologist by profession, training. He works with the Neolithic the most in Bronze Age, and he wrote a book to it's a historical novel to explain the Amesbury Archer and basically the arrival of slowly bringing the Bronze Age into England, and then at Stonehenge.
Oh my goodness.
And the main character in the book, the Amesbury Archer, his guide takes the form of several different animals throughout this, depending on where they are and what kind of an animal is needed to get in. So that's one kind of an example, perhaps. And I think it's just what people relate to. I don't have as much experience with working with animal souls. I've seen many. I've been led to graves of some. And I may have had communication, but I haven't had the experience enough to say that this is accurate communication and not my imagination. Mm-hmm. And so I know people who are really good, and they specialize in animal reading, and I send people to them. But as far as it's whoever seems, or whatever spirit seems to have the connection that works for us, and I'm not sure what all's involved, in that case, especially when you're talking about animals.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Holly, I want to hear yours there.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I want to quickly change something over really quick to what William said, and that is that it's not just an animal spirit that can influence someone. And I know this is not an accurate example, but for the sake of conversation and visual, the movie Christine from Stephen King came to mind. And the reason why, and then Ghostbusters Afterlife, there's a moment in the movie where Ecto 1 seems to come to life and do things that they're not expecting it to do. I do believe and agree with William completely that depending on the personality, depending on the soul, sometimes a spirit animal could be a car. It could be a jacket. It could be a pair of shoes. There's significance and representation in inanimate objects just as much as there is in an animal or a plant or something else that actually has life in it. Spirit animals, I believe, and what I have seen so far is that there's an energy to everything. There's an energy to each blade of grass, to each breath of air. There's an energy to artwork. There's an energy to writing. And so in animals is this very raw, very enlightened attunement with nature and the universe that we exist in and share. And so as there are traits to these animals, they can really tie in and link us to a part of ourselves that we either need support in, or that maybe we need a guidance towards. And so it has been a delight of mine in learning a little bit in different facets of the clairs, as we like to call them, the different connections and tie-ins for these sort of things. I had a reading, I want to say 2 years ago, and I was pretty much sound asleep, and my spirit guides did the, get up, you got to do a reading thing. And there was a gray wolf at my bedroom door, a very large one.
Okay.
And I wasn't afraid at all.
Right.
I was actually like, oh, hi, who are you? And he didn't say anything right away. He just said, I'm here. And in what to describe what you were saying earlier, to elaborate, I get thought implants. It's like an idea or an understanding of something in its entirety is dropped in my brain.
Yep.
Like a piece of toast in a toaster. I knew that he was there to help me. And so I did this reading, and the whole time he sat next to me. And I just felt calm and safe and protected, and this family environment. And I was like, oh, wow. And so I had this sense that this particular spirit animal was there for me to help me. I didn't have the time to really delve into this relationship and say, golly, have you been here all along and I just didn't see you? Or are you just here for tonight? Or, but it just jollied the beans out of me, because I do think animals are magical just in and of themselves, whether they're, a stick beetle or a butterfly or a moth or a rhinoceros. I mean, animals have these incredible personalities, and just like we do. And I think that we can draw from them. And so, did I answer your question?
No, yeah.
Okay.
Very
Good.
cool. Yeah. While you guys were answering the last question, I just, things are always bubbling up.
Of course.
And William, because we both have a background, at least in education wise, of history, there are certain parts of history that have always resonated with me more than others. Case in point, I when I was in college, the focus was on colonial Revolutionary War and then the 18th century American West. But I've also had just really resonant with the Crusades. That is something that's also resonated with me. And lately, it's been like Anglo-Saxon, Bronze Age of England, Anglo-Saxons, before the Norman conquest.
Right.
Uh, is that like something that's intuitive in me that maybe has some sort of from the past, maybe impressions. I wouldn't say remembrance as far as like
Oh, it could
remembering.
be though. It could be residual stuff. When you mentioned the Civil War, my spirit guide showed me an image of you in another life with your head completely bandaged, your upper body having bandaged, stuff on your wrist and hand, and what looked like either you were holding up your left leg from the knee down or part of it was removed, but it looked like you had really been through the gamut. And so I wouldn't not be surprised whatsoever if there were traces trickling into you.
Yeah.
Like I have this innate fascination with music from the 20s that
Oh.
when I hear it,
Mhm.
it envelops me. I have a very strange phobia that knocks me to the floor and that I didn't find quite by accident.
Yeah.
My sister went to go live on a boat on Pier 39 in San Francisco back in the 80s. And I went to go visit her. And I have been on boat after boat after boat fishing with my family, water skiing and la la la. Love the water, nicknamed Water Dog because I was always in the water when I was near it. But for some strange reason, as I was walking down the pier trying to keep up with my sister, I got near this one boat and I froze in terror and could not take another step. And all I could do was stare at the bow of the ship. And this sense of complete and utter panic came over me. And I can't even describe it. It was like a flood of emotions that hit me. And now, looking back, clearly something happened to me in a drowning situation near a large boat. I have no idea what or where or when, but there was something. I wanted to mention there's a lady in Portland by the name of Julia Ingram who wrote a book called The Lost Sisterhood, and she touches on the difference in hypnotherapy and then past life regression. She is a hypnotherapist. She's a psychiatrist that ended up doing hypnotherapy to help a couple people that were stuck in therapy that weren't able to move forward. Right. And in doing so, this particular client many years ago, was talking about childhood things. And then one session just dropped into this complete other voice and began a series of sessions with Julia that were all about another life from colonial England era. This woman had lived with her father. Her mother died. They sailed on a ship from England to an island somewhere. She fell in love with one of the sailors, was to be married. He went back out to sea, was supposed to come back 7 months later, and they were to be wed, and he died and never returned. She ended up dying of a broken heart shortly thereafter. It manifested into this current existence as lupus.
Oh.
And so it has been an ongoing wellspring of aha moments that I have encountered where there are things that in this life are not fully explainable, but very real in people's lives that have been linked to past life things. I'm actually, and you don't know this, William, I'm a licensed hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. And so I have found that in doing past life regressions with people, many, many times there are situations, good and bad, both, or just working conditions, let's say, that are directly linked to some big event, some happy, some not, from past lives that has carried over. And unfortunately, most of the time it's from something traumatic or something very shocking. But it's amazing what relieves people. So in this case with the Julia story, this woman was able to reduce some of her symptoms and was able to sleep and lost a lot of her anxiety because she learned the source of the anxiety, that it was something from an old past that had gone and she had to make peace with it.
Right.
Okay. But it was very healing and amazing. So I think maybe what I want to ask you, Jason, is
Yeah.
when you are focusing on past life regressions, because you've mentioned this a few times, and for the listeners abroad, when you think about a past life regression for yourself, what do you hope to gain from something like that? Or what do you think you're seeking? What does it feel like to you?
Oh, well, a historical context, obviously,
Okay.
uh,
Sure.
where
Of
when,
course.
I don't know about why, but that and really just the whole concept of it. I'm just so interested in that, and I do believe in past. I do believe in reincarnation, uh, and so that really is just one of those areas that's never talked about or hardly ever.
Right.
And but I believe each person has that intuition, that sort of soul recognition of
Sure.
things that have gone on in the past. And one thing I've learned from this episode is either falling out of a plane or being in the Civil War and shot. I'm injury prone, you know. But yeah, that is really what I've been just sort of interested about it, because a lot of things like resonate with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how quite to classify that. I mean, I remember as a kid, I always had this sort of, I don't know if it was dream, remembrance, vision,
Sure.
what have you, of, I remember as far back as like 5 or 6 of being, I would say as I grew up, I recognized it was somewhere in the 30s or 40s.
Okay.
Overcoat, fedora,
Right.
and again injury prone. I got shot, right in the breadbasket,
Okay.
and it really stayed with me.
Okay.
Even now, since I'm only 24.
Yeah.
No, through all these years though, has stayed with me.
Uh-huh.
And so that triggered, as you're growing up. When I was a kid, I didn't know how to place it. I just would remember it from time to time.
Sure.
Right.
And as you get older, you start being able to put things in context. Like, okay, the fedora and the overcoat, the great overcoat they wore back then.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, that must have been around this time. And there's a guy holding the old 45,
Uh-huh.
and okay, that's the type of gun that was used and stuff. And I can't remember really
Well,
face,
if you when you're out working with gangsters and moonshiners, what do you expect but to get shot?
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Then
Very-
that's what I'm seeing as part of what you were doing.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it also feels too, Jason, like you definitely have a warrior spirit that's been continuing with you.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
Yeah, because that explains the soldier stuff that has come across a few times. And
Yeah.
just in that mindset, that's not for everybody. That's part of your soul contract, likely by the sounds of it, because it's repeating. It's something that you're experiencing more than once. So I don't know that you're accident prone at all. I think that it's part of your soul contract to be engaged in that line of work. Like, not everyone has the stomach to be a paramedic. Not everyone has the stomach to be a mortician. Not everyone has the stomach to be a school teacher of 9th graders. It's
so
all
like temperament, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that can be definitely a part of it. And this is interesting because there's so many different pieces that can go together.
Yes.
And it can be a combination of many or just one or whatever. And
Right.
part of what I've seen, I agree with you, Holly, is it's so often people are remembering pieces of past lives.
Yes.
But it's also possible that you're just aware, you're not getting the scene of you in the life, but you're aware. I find a lot of the time periods in places I've been really drawn to I go there and it's like, oh, there I am.
Mhm.
And it's not that way with everybody, but it could be, and it wasn't I was remembering anything beforehand. It's just in some cases, I don't know about all of them because there are a few places I haven't been yet where I've had these really, I've always wanted to go.
Sure.
And so it can be just that attraction to home,
Sure.
to a time period that was home and
Right.
a
And
location that was home.
sure. And just
Mhm.
for the sake of connectivity, the term deja vu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How many times do we do something subconsciously or otherwise, and it seems very normal, very everyday, and your conscious mind says,
Mhm.
we've never been here before.
Yeah.
I realize I'm in my 50s, but I'm not that forgetful. Come on. I know I haven't been here before. There's a lot of things that link. Yeah. And so, absolutely. So, deja vus, I believe, are things to pay attention to and to delight in. Because if you have the opportunity to connect with the rest of what your soul has been up to, that's amazing. I had an older brother that was very sweet to tell me in my youth, Holly, try to pay attention to other people as much as you can and learn from their mistakes so you don't make so many of your own.
Mm.
And that really stuck with me. And in reality, if we've been running again and again and again through this life, one person body at a time, really, if we can connect with something else that we've learned to not have to relearn it, kudos. I mean, that's money in the bank. That's knowledge and experience that can benefit us in many good ways, for sure.
It's fantastic. Uh, Now, before we get out of here, I do have another question and subject I want to talk about, and that is our relation, how we view how what what is real when we talk about uh, traditional mainstream religion, because I believe that so much through time has been warped and skewed and just forgotten. Uh, how, how do visionaries like you and Holly, how do you reconcile maybe your experiences and your reality versus what other people would consider their own orthodoxy?
Yeah,
That's a
that's an
big
interesting
question.
question. And part of what I like to look at when I travel to ancient spots is I particularly like a place that has a medieval church built on top of an Anglo-Saxon church built on top of a Roman temple built on top of you know, you've got the sites going all the way back to the Mesolithic, maybe,
Yeah.
where you've had spiritual practice of different kinds
Mhm.
for millennia. And I usually find that the energy and where it takes one,
Mhm.
they mesh, they work well, and you don't need the ritual of the religion to get to the place
Gotcha.
or to have the experience of the energy of the place.
Yeah.
The religion, if done right, can be a tool, but it isn't the necessity. And I don't know from me if it, I don't really practice a religion of any kind. I'm more spiritual than religious. I'm technically Catholic. I even went to seminary for a while. Um, ah, they had no idea what to do with me. Um,
Me either.
I was 44 at the time.
Mhm.
Um, I was quite impressed. I lasted 6 months. Um, but it's and I have respect for religion when it's used appropriately, when it's used as a tool of hatred or domination or control, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But it's not religion itself or any one religion. It's how it's used. And this is digressing a little bit from what you said, but one of the theories with history that makes a lot of sense to me, and it's been talked about more and more, is that religion was an invention that needed to be put into place in order to have a more complex society where you're going beyond the basic clan unit, because you have to have some kind of a unifying force and behavior system and ethics, etiquette, rules, some way to govern something that consists larger of a small clan.
Right.
And it makes sense. You already had gods, a type of spiritual worship and type of religion in a sense to understand and explain nature, because and to try to make sure the crops came and the sun came back again and all
Yeah.
the rest of it, because people didn't know the science. But then you put that together so that you can build. And that also then gives certain people more power eventually. And I mean, there are all the other pieces that come with it that can be used in a positive or negative way.
Sure.
It's like most things, the entity itself is benign. And so I don't really see, I know people in several religions that are very interested in what I do and are big believers in it. And that includes Byzantine Catholic priests and people of a variety of different faiths. And I know atheists that think I'm totally insane.
So let me
I've got one friend. I'm sorry, I'll just real quick.
no, go for it.
It's so funny because he's an engineer and he doesn't get this stuff at all. Refuses. And we've done a little bit of travel together, and all these people, college, university professors, judges, doctors, lawyers, all these incredibly intelligent, highly educated, highly trained, fascinating people are fascinated by what I do, and he doesn't get it. And it's really funny. It makes me laugh because I can tell he's not happy about it.
Yeah. Is there I know that I'm going off in left field again, but is there a reason why that somebody would just totally reject innate intuition? Because I mean, even the most atheist of atheists, right, will deny that there is something. But even denying the act of denying something is believing in something
Right.
else, right? And I've heard a lot of people don't believe in a God, but they always talk about the universe, or or whatever source, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I take away from it. I've had a huge and very personal, I guess, religious journey simply because I've had problems with the conformity of it and some of the whys,
Right.
and that was my big problem in seminary was why, and of course, as you know, Catholics, a lot of it is the blind faith, put your head down, son, and go forth,
Mm-hmm.
and so where I'm at right now, and this is probably going to shock a lot of people, is that I'm actually Muslim, uh, because I found it's sort of more, I won't say simplistic, but the message is not as rule oriented like in Western sort of uh, religiosity.
Right. Depending on what tradition and what cultural background you have
Sure.
influencing the Islam.
Right.
And I mean, Sufism
Yeah.
is something that, and I have been to Rumi's tomb
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
I've watched the dervishes in his town,
yeah.
and it's the type of thing that gives you chills. But yeah, and I think in regards to your question, a lot of it has to do with people are afraid to question something that they're putting their security into.
Gotcha.
And people are afraid of being vulnerable. And a lot of times, conservative elements of religions, I don't care which one it is,
Mhm.
want people to be isolated from anything other than their concept of I'm not going to say truth. I was going to control and manipulation.
Gotcha.
Because when you start getting into those particularly, you're starting to really bend that line between a religion and control and manipulation
Right.
and a cult, in my opinion. I've got a bachelor's and I have a master's. None of them have to do with I'm not a doctor or a lawyer or a therapist or a theologian, but I've studied a lot of theology. So
Oh, yeah.
I just put it out there for qualifications. As in my experience I've earned all this white. It's that's what makes sense to me. So I don't know if that answers your
No,
question, but it makes sense to me.
it does because from historical background, I mean, history, religion weaves through every facet of society and social construct.
Uh-huh.
And so when we talk about the power and manipulation, oh yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
And it always has. I mean,
yeah,
back in the prehistoric days, it was a different kind of form, maybe, but it was influenced every step and every breath you take because you want to make sure those crops or the animal or the whatever come, and you want to make sure the saber-toothed tiger doesn't eat you.
right,
There's depending how far back you go. And so there is something that's used to help us.
sure,
Mhm.
okay,
So let me touch back and reel it back in a little, and let's go
Okay.
back to the question that
reel
Jason had.
it in, yeah,
So in answering the question, let me
Yep.
put forth an idea for you to consider.
Okay.
So there are theories and there are philosophies where people view, let's just say, our general soul function on earth as a dimmer, turned down view of what we are when we are out of body and in our spiritual nature at its fullest. And so the theory is, and the philosophy is, that as we are gathered together in a, whatever you want to call it, a heavenly realm or an alternative dimension, before we come to earth, we are connected with this soul of the universe. We're connected as one. We understand many things. We're in
Right.
tune with the universal consciousness at its fullest. We have access to universal knowledge. There is not pain. There is not suffering. There is all this love and understanding. However, in order for us to fully grow, we must experience pain and loss.
right,
And so in order to do that, we make these deals, these contracts to come here and live with a turned down switch. Our dial is turned down so that we are disconnected just enough so that we can function in this dimension, in this realm.
Yeah.
And so as we are trotting through our lives, it is very common for people to feel a longing for faith and a longing for the mushy side of religion and what that offers. And so that longing of closeness, that worship and fellowship, that bonding with each other in prayer, that all of the loving embrace of the immense love. Like in a recent interview, we talked with Sarah about the feeling in her life and death experience and the incredible feeling of love. I died during a heart attack, was dead for 8.5 minutes. I know exactly what she's talking about. Out of my body, I felt incredible love and warmth and this totally different mental state of mind that I was not ever going to have in my regular life. Yeah. And so if that's where we exist outside of our bodies, of course, we're going to crave that here. This is messy. This is scary. This is a lot of hardship and a lot of challenge. But this is also the most growth we could ever have. And no matter what the philosophy or origin of religion, there's always a lesson about pruning or learning through strife or treading water to get to somewhere much deeper. And so that's kind of where we're at here. So your desire to keep seeking this stuff and connecting it, absolutely, you're going to find in history where it's been molested and grossly abused. And yes, people in power that don't have a lot of faith, that don't connect with the soul of the universe, are going to use it and say, oh, these people are weak-minded. They think they need a God. I'll give them one. Here we go. And then I can get them to plant fields for me and sew my clothes. And it's all manipulation and power-hungry device. That's their journey. That's their goal. Are they yucky? Yeah, they're making an advance on their own life that they think is more important than anything else because they are tuned down so far. They are not connected to the real world that I feel. It's why I say that spirit world to me is far larger than the one we live in. It's massive.
Yeah.
And so it is only natural that throughout your life, you have felt this strong urging to go back to a faith, because that's where love is. That's where unconditional, unceasing, non-judgmental, total love and bliss is. That feels right because it is. That's where we should be mentally.
Yeah.
That's where we belong. But
Yeah.
we're stuck here for the moment to deal with life and figure it out. And having that connection to the higher self, that belief of, I don't have to hate. I don't have to be mean. I can go through life and love my fellow man. That's innate in all of us at one level or another. And so it completely makes sense that religion has been structured to try and help gather people and organize them and get them to focus, because by nature, we kind of wander. We don't have necessarily an innate feeling to structure anything. That's someone else's journey. Some people are type A personalities, they say, or type B or whatever. We all make a great system because we're all a little different.
Gotcha.
Right.
So it's that homesickness a little, right?
Absolutely. That is a perfect word. Perfect. So as you're feeling all these feelings, of course you feel that way.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you can bridge the gap and allow yourself to breathe and understand that, yes, there's more than what you have in front of you. And I do believe that is why what is that expression from Meet Joe Black? To dance like a dervish. The response that I get when I ask people, do you like the paranormal? Are you interested in it? And this beaming, obsessive glow comes over people and they're like, yes, because there is this connection, there's this clicking, and there's this bond that we all have, because in our fully enveloped state, we're much happier creatures. We're not miserable. We don't have bodies that are falling apart and aging. We don't have neighbors that hate us. We don't have relatives that disappoint us. We don't have all those other things going on because there's love. It's just love. Right. And it's incredible. Right. So history has shown us again and again that there's something to faith. There's definitely evidence that faith has action behind it and a viability in the paranormal. We've seen, stuff with exorcisms, and we've seen miracle cures, and we've seen this, that, and the other. And to me, those are all threads linking us to the ultimate love and the ultimate universal feeling.
Awesome. Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Does that connect? Does that connect?
And just to let you know, you guys know that through these episodes, we now not only have the woo-woo, we have the mushy.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, we do.
Just throwing that in there.
Yeah, William, we have this phrase that we use. We speak woo-woo.
Okay.
And that came out of some conversations where we were sharing different stories, and I explained that part of my life growing up, there were comfortable places to speak about things that were woo-woo, as some of my girlfriends call it, and places that you weren't. I was very blessed to have a mom who was able to go between her Protestant upbringing and my dad's Catholic upbringing, and then talk to me about the numerology and psychic experiences of our direct relatives.
Gotcha.
Great.
All at the dinner table. She could
Yep.
switch gears. And it was amazing and such a huge blessing, because the rest of the world was like an alien planet, because I could sense and feel and hear and la 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 la, and not say a word in school, and not say anything to friends, and not say anything at work, and just know that I was kind of hanging out in this realm that I didn't really belong in. I was just hanging out. And that was a great feeling and a great sense to have.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, right? Before we just open the door and fly out and go to our local bar. I'm just kidding. I don't drink. Anyway, William, tell us what you're doing now. And if you have anything to hype, please do so.
Okay. Well, I still have my book, the In the Footsteps of My Forebears, and
Yeah.
Cool.
I can't remember the subtitle part. William Becker, it's on Amazon.
Okay, good. I was just gonna say, where can we get that?
And buy copies, because I haven't gotten any royalties lately. So
Yay.
I need to check and make sure that it's set up right. And then
Okay.
Subliminal messages, subliminal message. Buy his
Okay.
books. Buy
Yes.
his books. Okay.
And I give readings in person or through video chats or something like that. I like to see the person I read. I've got a group of people in New England I'm doing some training sessions with through this. Let's see. I just had a big event. I'm working. I should have by this time next week. I should have a big event to announce,
Okay,
hopefully, at a
Nice.
really fantastic place.
nice.
But so I'm not quite as busy as I'd like to be.
Okay.
But there are a few projects that are circling. A couple of them are waiting to figure out funding.
Sure.
But more in the works. William
Nice.
at paranormalinsights.net
Oh, thank you.
is my email,
Okay.
and paranormalinsights.net is my website, where you can also sign up for my free newsletter
Okay.
and find the links to like me on Facebook and stuff. Para
Okay.
Insights is who I am on Facebook.
Okay.
And my website's a mess, excuse me, but I
Okay.
haven't figured out how to go in and fix it.
Okay.
So
I still have to pay for ours. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you're welcome to message me after this, and I might be able to help you with that.
okay.
So let
thank
me
you.
know. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So tell me before we move forward, I want to know, in your journey to be where you are today, can you share with people that have had inklings that they might be different, or they know somebody's going to call them all the time, or they know when someone's going to die, or whatever their sense is, speak to that person for me for a moment and say what it is you think is okay about that, and how to move forward from feeling things and actually doing something about it.
I think everything is okay about that. And that's a good question, and it's not always easy to answer, because I know people that have been in situations where it's been somewhat abusive to share these powers. I haven't experienced that, but I learned how to be invisible. I think it's important to not lose track of yourself and find a meditation tradition if possible. Find something where you can go inside and help, even if you don't have others around you that can support you. Develop and allow your own telos. The Greeks had it right. Everybody's our own unique oak tree.
Yes.
And our job, and through all these journeys, is to allow ourselves to become that whole, complete, and mature oak tree, which is when the Bible says, "Be perfect like your Father is perfect."
Yeah.
What that means is you are in a process of becoming whole, complete, and mature.
Correct.
And so that's our job. And accept yourself with what you're doing. When you can, find things to read, find people to watch that aren't just crackers. Be aware there's a lot of stuff out there that isn't healthy and isn't accurate, but there's a huge amount that is. And you'll find over time, you'll find safe people to talk to and to do things with. But if you've got imaginary friends, talk to them. And if you don't feel safe telling the adults in your life, don't. I mean, in my experience, as long as you're dealing with beings from the other side, I mean, if you're dealing with living humans, that's a different story. And don't push yourself beyond what you feel comfortable with until you have people that can help you.
I love that. That's very well said. And I want to just make a quick public service announcement for anyone. A spirit guide or anyone that comes alongside you that's trying to communicate with you would never, ever tell you to harm yourself or
Right.
anyone else or anything else. A spirit guide is all about love and never anything else. They might scold you. They might joke with you. They might cajole you into doing something like changing careers and whatnot, but they will never, and I mean never, ever insinuate or direct or push or motivate harm to
That's
anyone
right.
else, especially yourself too. So if you are feeling information coming at you in any way, and it, you have a gut, when something is like, wow, that wasn't good. Okay, well, pay attention. And if you need help, there is help. And I agree, William, just keep talking. You will find the right people. And you can actually think that. You can actually think, please, universe, God, whoever you want to talk to, send me people that are safe, that I can trust, that will help me to understand this, and they will come. They will come.
Awesome. You guys, this has been a fantastic episode. William, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you.
We have only gotten like 10% of what I want to talk about. So we're going to have to get you back here real soon to continue our very, very cool conversation.
I'd love it.
Awesome. Holly, any famous last words?
Just quickly, I have some nuggets to throw at you guys. One of them is I found 17 new ways to do readings.
Ooh.
That I've never heard of before, ever. And one that I will tell you that some of you may have heard has to do with something completely bizarre and silly. So Jason, you're going to love this.
Okay.
Sylvester Stallone's mother used to read people's butts. So I have recently learned that and several other things that are ways to divine things that have to do with food and animals and body parts and you name it. And they're coming to you guys soon. We're going to share all this cool stuff. I have more fairy content, more. It's incredible, the stuff that is piling in. Yeah. We have people from all over that we're going to continue to talk with and reach out to. I'm super excited. I mean, we have got some major Sasquatch stuff happening. And next month is May. And May has a wonderful Squatch Fest in Forks, Washington, that I encourage all of you to at least visit or check out. There is an Indian legend that says when Sasquatches become more visible in day-to-day life, we're getting close to end days. Now, that's not something that's in the book of Revelations, but let me tell you, honey, it's real to me. It's connecting dots for me. I love that. There's so much going on in the world right now, and I am so excited that we have this podcast to share. We're working on connecting people that are interested in the paranormal. When you need help or aren't sure who to talk to, we're working together to find a kind of a paranormal phone book. And so that's coming together really nicely. And so input people, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear your thoughts. We're very excited. This has been an incredible blessing for Jason and I. We have had so much positive feedback, and it's just blowing me away. I mean, the response is incredible. To go from a closet psychic to be in broad daylight with business cards, for gosh sakes, and a web page that's maybe gimping along, but it's there. But it's there. And honestly, it's nothing but good coming, y'all. It's all good. It's some wonderful stuff. And stay tuned. Tell your friends. Check us out on Facebook. We have got good stuff coming at you all the time. We've got stories, and you don't have to do the hunting. We're hunting for you. We're finding the cool news, and we're going to share more things with you. There was some Sasquatch news that just came in from Washington that we will share in another episode that it has me breathless. So yeah, hang tight. More is coming.
Excellent. Hey, so if we're hunting for them, I will go ahead and volunteer and be their personal Elmer Fudd.
All right. Well, hunting webbits.
All right, let's wrap this up real quick. William, thank you so much for coming on. And this has been Midnight Alchemy, and we will do this again very, very soon. A Reaver Dare Show.